What if I told you that some vegetables don't actually die after one season? While your neighbors are replanting their gardens every single spring, spending hundreds of dollars on new seeds and seedlings, there's a secret group of vegetables that keep producing year after year, just like apple trees. These aren't your typical annuals. They're perennial powerhouses that laugh in the face of winter and come back stronger every season. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 20 vegetables will turn your garden into a permanent food factory. But here's the catch. Most gardeners have no idea these even exist. Hey there, garden friend. Welcome back to Earthly Gardening, where we grow smart, not hard. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us because today's video is going to completely change how you think about vegetable gardening. And to my returning viewers, you absolute legends, thank you for coming back. You're part of a community that believes gardening shouldn't drain your wallet or your energy. Now, before we dig into these incredible perennial vegetables, do me a quick favor. If you're serious about saving money and creating a garden that practically runs itself, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Why? Because we drop new budget-friendly gardening secrets every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Plus, it's completely free, and it helps this channel reach more people who need these tips. Alright, let's get growing. So let's talk about what's really happening here. Most of us were taught that vegetables are annuals. You plant them in spring, they grow all summer, you harvest, and then they die. Next year, start all over again. It's like being stuck in an endless loop of spending money at the garden center, preparing beds, and doing the same work over and over. But what if that entire system was just unnecessary? Here's what nobody tells you. There's an entire category of vegetables that behave exactly like fruit trees. You plant them once, and they keep producing food year after year after year. Some of them for 5 years, some for 10. And a few, they'll outlive your mortgage. These are perennial vegetables, and they're about to become your garden's best investment. Now, I'm not talking about some exotic, hard-to-find plants that require special soil from the mountains of Tibet. I'm talking about vegetables you've probably eaten before, vegetables that are sitting in grocery stores right now, but nobody told you that you could plant them once and forget about the annual replanting circus. So let's jump into these 20 incredible perennial vegetables that grow like fruit trees. Vegetable 1, asparagus. First up, we have asparagus, and this is the heavyweight champion of perennial vegetables. Plant asparagus crowns once, and they'll produce for 20 to 25 years. Yes, you heard that right. 2 decades of fresh asparagus from one planting session. Now, here's the thing. Asparagus makes you wait. The first year, you don't harvest anything. The second year, you barely touch it. But by year 3, you're harvesting delicious spears every spring for the next 2 decades. It's like putting money in a savings account that pays you in vegetables. Asparagus loves full sun and well-drained soil. Plant it once, be patient, and then enjoy literally hundreds of pounds of asparagus over its lifetime. Vegetable 2, rhubarb. Next is rhubarb, the perennial that people mistake for a fruit but is actually a vegetable. Rhubarb is ridiculously tough. It survives freezing winters, comes back every spring with those beautiful red stalks, and produces for 15 to 20 years minimum. You plant one rhubarb crown, and you're set for decades of pies, jams, and compotes. The best part? Rhubarb actually needs cold winters to thrive. So if you live in a cooler climate where other perennials struggle, rhubarb is your best friend. Just remember, the leaves are toxic, but those stalks are pure gold. Vegetable 3, artichokes. Now let's talk about artichokes. These beautiful plants look like something from a fantasy garden, but they're perennial in warmer climates. In zones 7 and above, artichokes come back year after year, producing those gorgeous flower buds that we harvest and eat. Each plant can produce dozens of artichokes per season, and they keep going for 5 to 7 years. Even if you're in a colder zone, you can grow them as perennials with some winter protection. Artichokes are impressive, delicious, and they'll make your garden look absolutely stunning. Vegetable 4, sorrel. Sorrel is one of those vegetables that most people have never heard of, but once you grow it, you'll wonder why it's not in every garden. This leafy green has a tangy, lemony flavor that's perfect for salads and soups. Sorrel is virtually indestructible. It grows in partial shade, tolerates poor soil, and comes back every single year for about 6 years or more. You plant it once, and you have fresh salad greens from early spring through fall, year after year. It's like having a salad bar that never closes. Vegetable 5. Egyptian walking onions. Here's where things get weird and wonderful. Egyptian walking onions are perennial onions that literally walk across your garden. They grow little bulbs at the top of their stalks. Those bulbs get heavy, the stalk bends over, and the bulbs plant themselves in a new spot. It's like your onions are migrating across your garden bed. You can harvest both the underground bulbs and the topset bulbs, and they keep multiplying forever. Plant them once, and you'll never buy onions again. Plus, they're a conversation starter because they're just bizarre and amazing. Vegetable 6. Globe artichokes. Similar to regular artichokes but worth mentioning separately because of their reliability. Globe artichokes are true perennials that establish deep root systems. They're drought-tolerant once established, which means less watering and less work for you. In Mediterranean climates, these plants become massive, productive fixtures in the garden. One plant can yield up to 30 artichokes in a season, and they'll keep producing for a decade if you treat them right. Hey, quick pause here. If you're finding this valuable and realizing you've been wasting money on annual vegetables when you could be growing these perennials, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can discover these money-saving secrets. And drop a comment telling me which perennial vegetable you're most excited to try. I read every single comment, and I love hearing from you. Alright, let's keep going because we've got 14 more perennial vegetables to cover. Vegetable 7. Watercress. Watercress is a perennial that thrives in wet conditions. If you have a boggy area in your yard that nothing else will grow in, watercress will absolutely thrive there. It's packed with nutrients, has that peppery bite that makes salads interesting, and it grows like crazy once established. The best part? You can keep harvesting it and it keeps growing back. It's perennial in mild climates and will self-seed in colder areas, meaning it basically acts perennial even when it technically isn't. Vegetable 8. Sea kale. Sea kale is one of those vegetables that sounds fancy but is actually super easy to grow. It's a true perennial that produces tender shoots in spring that taste similar to asparagus. Sea kale is also extremely ornamental with its blue-green leaves and white flowers, so it pulls double duty as both food and garden decoration. It's drought-tolerant, pest-resistant, and will produce for you for about 8 to 10 years. Plant it in a sunny spot with good drainage and you're done. Vegetable 9. Lovage. Lovage is like celery's overachieving cousin. It tastes like celery but grows as a massive perennial herb that comes back bigger every year. You can use the leaves, stems, and seeds for cooking. One plant is usually enough for an entire family because it grows so large. Lovage is hardy, requires almost no maintenance, and lives for decades. Seriously, there are love plants out there older than most people reading this. Plant it once, and your great-grandchildren might still be harvesting from it. Vegetable 10. Good King Henry. This is an old-fashioned perennial vegetable that's making a comeback. Good King Henry produces edible leaves similar to spinach, edible shoots similar to asparagus, and edible flower buds. It's like 3 vegetables in one plant, and it's completely perennial. It tolerates shade better than most vegetables, so if you have a partially shaded area, this is your plant. It's been grown in Europe for centuries and deserves way more attention than it gets. Vegetable 11. Turkish rocket. Turkish rocket, also called Turkish arugula, is a perennial version of regular arugula. If you love that peppery arugula flavor but hate replanting it every few weeks, Turkish rocket is your answer. It's a true perennial that produces leaves almost year-round in mild climates. In colder areas, it dies back in winter but returns in spring. The leaves are slightly more bitter than annual arugula, but they're perfect for salads, and the plant is essentially unkillable. Vegetable 12. Caucasian spinach. Caucasian spinach is a climbing perennial that produces spinach-like leaves on vigorous vines. You can grow it on a trellis, and it'll produce fresh greens from spring through fall. It's heat-tolerant, which means it keeps producing even when regular spinach would bolt and become bitter. The plant dies back in winter but returns from its roots every spring. It's productive, space-efficient, and completely hassle-free once established. Vegetable 13. Daubenton's kale. Most kale is biennial, but Daubenton's kale is truly perennial. This variety doesn't produce seeds, so all its energy goes into producing leaves. You can harvest from it almost year-round, and it keeps going for years. The leaves are tender, delicious, and packed with nutrients. Plus, you can propagate it from cuttings, so one plant can turn into an entire kale forest if you want. It's virtually pest-free and handles cold weather like a champion. Vegetable 14. 9-star perennial broccoli. Yes, perennial broccoli exists, and 9-star is the variety to grow. This plant produces multiple small broccoli heads instead of one large head, and it keeps producing for about 5 years. The heads are white or cream-colored, tasting like a cross between broccoli and cauliflower. It's slower to establish than annual broccoli, but once it gets going, you're harvesting broccoli every year without replanting. That's a game changer for broccoli lovers. Vegetable 15. Chives. Chives are so common that people forget they're perennial. Plant chives once, and they'll divide and multiply in your garden forever. You get fresh onion-flavored greens almost year-round, plus beautiful purple flowers that are also edible. Chives are perfect for containers, garden borders, or as companion plants. They require zero maintenance and will literally outlive you if you let them. Vegetable 16. Garlic chives. Similar to regular chives, but with a garlic flavor instead of onion. Garlic chives produce flat leaves and white flowers, and they're just as perennial and low maintenance as regular chives. The difference? They're heat-tolerant and actually prefer warmer weather. You can harvest the leaves, the flowers, and even the flower buds. They're productive, flavorful, and they'll naturalize in your garden, meaning they'll spread and fill in empty spaces on their own. Vegetable 17. Horseradish. Horseradish is the perennial that won't quit. In fact, the bigger problem is stopping it from taking over your garden. Plant one horseradish root, and you'll have horseradish forever. The roots are what you harvest for that spicy condiment that clears your sinuses. Horseradish is incredibly vigorous, tolerates poor soil, and requires absolutely no care. Just be strategic about where you plant it because once it's established, it's there for life. Vegetable 18. Jerusalem artichokes. Also called sunchokes. These are perennial tubers that taste nutty and slightly sweet. They grow tall like sunflowers, because they're related, and they produce edible tubers underground. Jerusalem artichokes are ridiculously productive. Plant a few tubers and they'll multiply like crazy. They're also beautiful, with bright yellow flowers in late summer. The only warning? They can be invasive, so plant them where you don't mind them spreading, or contain them in a designated bed. Vegetable 19. Wild leeks. If you're into foraging culture, you know ramps are worth their weight in gold. These perennial wild leeks have a devoted following because of their unique flavor. Ramps prefer shade and moist soil, making them perfect for woodland gardens. They grow slowly from seed but establish into permanent colonies that produce every spring. Once you have ramps, you're part of an exclusive club of gardeners who grow one of the most sought-after wild vegetables. Vegetable 20. Tree collards. Finally, we have tree collards, and these are absolutely mind-blowing. Tree collards are perennial brassicas that grow into small trees, producing edible leaves year-round in mild climates. They can live for 10 to 20 years, growing up to 12 feet tall. You keep harvesting leaves, and they keep producing more. They don't produce seeds, so you propagate them from cuttings, which means every tree collard is essentially a clone of an ancient plant that's been kept alive through cuttings for potentially hundreds of years. It's like growing a piece of living history that also feeds you forever. So there you have it. 20 vegetables that completely change the game. Instead of spending money every single year on seeds and seedlings, you invest once and harvest for years, sometimes decades. This is how you build a truly sustainable, budget-friendly garden that works for you instead of you working for it. Now here's my challenge to you. Pick 3 of these perennial vegetables and commit to planting them this season. Just 3. Watch what happens over the next few years as those plants establish and start producing food without you having to replant them. That's how you transform your garden from an annual expense into a permanent food source. If this video opened your eyes to a whole new way of gardening, please share it with a friend who's always complaining about gardening costs. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're building a community of smart gardeners who refuse to waste money on things they don't need to. And drop a comment below telling me which perennial vegetable you're most excited about. I genuinely want to know. Until next time, keep growing smart, keep growing affordable, and remember, the best gardens are the ones that take care of themselves. I'll see you in the next video.